I think that this is a good time to talk about one of the more disappointing teams, since we just talked about a disappointing event with MLB The Show, one of the more disappointing teams in baseball right now, which is obviously the Minnesota Twins. It's been a rough start to the season. There's no denying it. The offense has been relatively cold. The pitching, I mean, they just, as of recording today, they blew a big lead to the Houston Astros. The pitching has generally not shown up all that much. There's injuries on the roster, which is at this point just an annual occurrence. And so it's just, yeah, I mean, I just want to gather your guys' thoughts. How do you feel about what's going on with the Twins? Is this just sort of like an early season cold snap? Is this indicative of just the roster that they've built and the, moves they failed to make over the last few years? How do you feel about them?
Yeah, I mean, I think in baseball, it's really easy to make snap judgments based on 9 games, but you're not even 10% of the way through. Other sports you can be a little more reactionary, but baseball is not one of those sports. You always want to get off to a good start. Having Harrison Bader as your home run leader is not where I think the team envisioned them being. But again, we're 2 weeks into the season. Again, I don't think it's anything to tear down the city over right now. But you want some sort of semblance of resilience and some fight, and that's not what we're seeing with this team right now. I think they're letting distractions get to them. Even with injuries and all the drama in the offseason, I think that this team is one that has a lot of promise on paper. It's early, but while you can't win the World Series at this point, you can certainly ruin your chances of getting there. So. If they're going to turn it around, they should start now and start winning games, improve pitching, work on their hitting, staying healthy, all those things. Royce Lewis coming back in a few weeks will help. And again, that's a benefit of the sport being so long, is you can miss guys for a month at a time and still they're back to make an impact and help you with the playoff push.
I always say that it is good for things to go bad early on because you always like Derek says, you always have room to improve, right? I'd rather, things go down the now than, you're in the middle of the season and for whatever reason your team falls off the rails. That being said, I feel like the Twins are not known for this, and that's where the red flag goes up to me. They're a very good team. They produce very high scoring games. And to go up, I mean, I'm just looking at the past few games with the Astros, right? I mean, they've kept up, their scores are pretty close. The thing that I was looking at with the Astros is losing a player like Alex Bregman and now going up against the Twins. To me, the Twins winning, and I mean, they won one game so far, but it was a no-brainer to me, at least, that I think the Twins should have won. So the fact that they're losing, I again, I don't want to sound the alarm, and I agree that with Derek that it doesn't reflect on the overall season. It's way too early to tell, but I'm like, well, again, I'm flip-flopping here. Brandon, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I am gonna sound the alarm bells more than these guys because right now, there's two hitters on the team that have a weighted runs created plus above 100, which is the average. So there's two hitters that are above average right now, and those are Harrison Bader and Willie Castro. That's a problem if you're the Minnesota Twins. I mean, again, it's only 9, 10 games or whatever right now, but Byron Buxton, not having a great start to this season. Obviously, Royce Lewis is out. It's concerning that the Twins need to be carried by their best. We spoke about this last time, that this is a top heavy roster. I mean, Carlos Correa is a disaster right now. He's got a WRC plus in the negatives right now. So this is just it's a problem that the Twins are relying heavily on their best players. And I mean, even if you look at the pitching side of things, no one's really been that good. I mean, Pablo Lopez has sort of been his normal self. I mean, Stape's gonna love this, but Danny Colom's been pretty solid out of the bullpen so far. But I mean, it's just Chris Paddack has like a 25, a literal 25 ERA at the time of recording. I mean, that is preposterous, that a pitcher could have an ERA that high after more than like an inning. So
And stay on the roster. They're not sending him down. He's on the roster.
so it's again, small sample sizes, caveats apply in spades. The first month of a season is so not indicative of where a team might end up. But the Twins play in a really competitive division. The Royals are really good. They were my World Series pick from the AL this year. The Tigers are really good. The Guardians are off to a slow start too, but we know how good. I mean, they made the ALCS last year. We know how good they are. And the Twins even got shut out by the White Sox in a game, which is just major alarm bells.
In,
Um,
in, in a game, they let up double-digit runs, right?
I think it was like 9-0. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just again, the sky isn't falling in the sense that, it's not September. It's just that this is as bad of a start to a season as the Twins could have envisioned. And outside of like some top prospects debuting, I don't really know where else the Twins can turn other than just hoping guys like Buxton and Correa turn it around.
Yep. And the American League wildcard picture is going to be packed. There's a lot of good teams in the American League. It's more wide open than the National League is. So a lot of teams are going to be in it down to the wire. So if the Twins don't get their name in the conversation now, it's going to be hard to find themselves doing that in September.
I'm also curious. I mean, Brandon and I both focus on in some of our websites, also the schedule for some of these teams. How do different teams in their schedule, how's it going to work? Coming up in the next few weeks, they're going up, the Twins are going up against the Royals, like Brandon mentioned. They're going up against the Tigers, they're going up against the Mets and the Braves, and then the White Sox. So again, it's okay teams and then really great teams, in my opinion. So I think these next few weeks are going to be very defining for the Twins. So again, it's this kind of thing. It's like we'll see what's going to happen situation. The hope is that they're going to pick up the pieces and say we're going to do better. But in 2 weeks, in my opinion, if you can't, Glick loves this. If you can't do well against the Mets, and the Tigers, I think you got bigger problems on your hands when you're the Twins, and that's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, I'd be more focusing keying in on the White Sox there because
Yeah, those are the winnable games.
yeah, because Detroit, you got some guys that are tearing the absolute cover off the ball. Guys are just hitting the ball. And Mets again had a really big offseason acquisition, Juan Soto. And they're not as bad as they have been in the past, and they're a team that kind of shows that if you want to be optimistic about the Twins, you catch fire at the right time, you
Yeah.
can be a real dangerous team down the stretch. I don't know who on that roster I'd pick to be a pop star for the Twins, but they gotta figure that out fast because they need some sort of magic, whether it's the Hamburglar or whoever they pull up, whatever it is, you know.
Yeah. They
Ron
need their
McDonald himself. Maybe they need some voodoo magic down the stretch, but again, it's a long season. Get hot at the right time. Anything's possible.